Hello viewers, welcome to this new lecture series on my channel. In this series, I shall be discussing the different technologies, that is the latest technologies, and in every session, I shall discuss one technology, the fundamentals of that technology, and where it will be used. This kind of information will be conveyed to you all. To begin with, in the first session, I shall discuss on blockchain. So what is a blockchain? Let me first read out the formal definition of the blockchain. Blockchain is a type of shared database that differs from a typical database in the way it stores the information. Data gets stored in the form of blocks linked together in a secured way. Let me extract few keywords from this definition. So I have extracted here 4 keywords from this definition. The first one is shared database, blocks, linked together, and secured way. Once I give you the complete explanation on blockchain, definitely you will come to know that shared database is the type of the database for the blockchain. And what do you mean by blocks? Why are we saying that blocks are linked together, and how this blockchain is storing the information in a secured way? So first, to explain all these things, let me first tell you in very simple words, blockchain is a mechanism to store information. So in simplest way, you can remember like this: blockchain is a mechanism to store information. Now the question arises, are not we having any type of database to store information? Yes, we have our conventional database where we store the information, where we store the data. Then why are we going for this kind of technology to store the information is the question. So for this, I'll give you the reasons. See, first and foremost thing is the conventional database or the typical database is a centralized one. So what do you mean by centralized one? There is one single person, or you can call it as the admin, who has got the complete hold or authority to control this database. But blockchain uses a decentralized way of storing the data. Now, why are we going for this decentralized? This is the question. Though we have a centralized mechanism to store the data, though we have the conventional database existing, why are we going for this blockchain? The reason is, see, people do transactions every day. If you take, for example, the money transactions only, definitely we are having day-to-day transactions, and our transactions most of the time are genuine. But some of the transactions that few people carry out are illegal. When do we say these kind of transactions are illegal? If the transactions are connected with bribe, corruption, or black money, then those type of transactions are called illegal. So these type of transactions which are carried out are also getting recorded. Our genuine transactions are also getting recorded, whereas these kind of illegal transactions are also getting recorded. But are we going to penalize the people who are involved in this type of illegal transactions? Unless we prove, we cannot penalize such people. See, this information, this transaction information is stored in a centralized way. That means there is one single person who is having the complete authority over that information. So there are chances that this person or this admin can modify the data. That is why we say the centralized way of mechanism is not reliable at all. The admin can modify the data because the access is only with the admin. No one else has got the access for this data. Now, what is the solution? Then how are we going to make this particular transactions that are being carried out every day, not only in terms of money, I'm talking about any other information, okay, which is very, very sensitive information, which has to be kept confidential. How are we going to deal with them? So we need to have a mechanism wherein the information should not get stored in one single machine, rather it should get stored in several machines. That means if there is not one single server here, multiple servers are involved, multiple machines are involved here, and each of the machine store a copy of the data. This kind of mechanism to store the data, we say it is a decentralized, because if multiple machines are involved, then multiple admins are there. If multiple admins are there, then the access is given to all those admins. This kind of mechanism will be helpful for us, because changing the record is not at all possible here. Changing the record is not possible in the system, then we can definitely trust that system. This kind of database is called as blockchain. So the research for the blockchain started from the year 1990 onwards, but in 2009, a person by name Satoshi Nakamoto developed a Bitcoin. And from there onwards, we started hearing about the cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is the first cryptocurrency to be created, and it is the most popular one. In still more simpler words, I can make you understand this concept of blockchain by giving an example. Suppose there is a shop, okay, the shop owner is taking care of all the stock that has to be brought in and sold out. The shop owner is what? It is recording the transactions in a ledger. This each record becomes a block here. Basically, the information should be what? From where the item came and to whom the item will be going. So this kind of information is kept here in the record, and we call such a record as a block. Blockchain is formed by these records. So let us talk about one single block in blockchain. So basically, when you talk about one single block, the block will have the data, that is the information, the hash and the previous hash. So what do you mean by hash and previous hash? This I'll explain you with an illustration. First thing that gets stored is data. That is quite obvious. Everyone knows that without data, for the data to get stored only, we have created the block. So definitely data is the main component here in the block. When you talk about Bitcoin here, then what does the data for the Bitcoin contains? It will have the information like who is the sender of the Bitcoin, who will be the receiver of that Bitcoin, and number of Bitcoins to be transferred. So this is what a data for the Bitcoin. Second thing that gets stored is hash. So what do you mean by a hash? Hash is a unique number that is given to this block. Once the data gets stored in a block, a unique number is generated. And it is similar to, like, if you want to understand this unique number concept, whenever we try to make Aadhaar card for ourselves, to get that Aadhaar card, you have to give your biometric information. Then only you will be able to receive that. Okay. On that Aadhaar card, you have a unique number. So that unique number gets generated for you and we call it as the Aadhaar number. Not only Aadhaar card, if you take for example the PAN card also, you have a PAN card number. So similar to that, here whenever the data gets stored in the block, a unique number is getting generated and that number is called as hash. So it is simply like, one example I'll give you randomly: 2s43qp795tu, something like this. So this unique number which gets generated for that block is called as hash. Then the third information that gets stored is the previous hash. Now to make you understand about the previous hash, I shall give an illustration. Let me just have 4 blocks. Now this is the first block, okay, the second block, third, fourth. These 4 blocks are there. For every block, as I said, there will be a data. Then second one is the hash. Every block will have what? Hash as well as the previous hash. Normally hash is a complex number, but here I shall be giving some simpler number as hash values. For example, let me take for the first block, the hash value that gets generated is 111, and the hash value that gets generated for the block 2, 222, for block 3, block 4 hash is 444. Now every block will have the previous hash. This is the first block, no? So previous hash is always what? The hash of the previous block. This is the first block that got created, hence there will not be any previous block for this, so the previous hash information will not be there. So I can write it as simply 00. The second block, previous hash value is what? The hash of the previous block. The previous block is block 1, so the hash will be what? The previous hash will be 111, which is the hash of the block 1. Hope you are getting now. Then for the block 3, the previous hash will be what? The hash of this second block. So it will be 222. So this is the value. Now what about the fourth block? The fourth block will have 333. This is the hash of what? The previous block, and the previous block is block 3. So this way every block will have its own hash as well as the hash of the previous block. Block number 1 does not store the information about any previous block. This block is called as the Genesis block. You have observed that a set of blocks are there, and also in the definition I told you the blocks are linked together. For this link I can show you with a symbol, a chain type of symbol. That's how the name came, blockchain. We can say that chain of blocks is formed, and we say blocks are linked together. That is because every block is storing what? The information about the previous block. Now since all these blocks are linked together, every block, whatever data that gets stored in one block, it is also what? Having connection with the other block. So manipulating the data becomes very difficult here. That's how we say once a particular record gets included in the block, there is no scope at all for any admin or any person who has got access to that block to modify that record. Because suppose the moment a person tries to think of modifying the data in one block, let me take for example block 2. If the person thinks of modifying the data in block 2, as soon as the data is modified, a new hash will get generated now. So the new hash, instead of this earlier 222, let me assume that now a new hash got generated. I'm writing here it as ABCD. Now what will happen? This is the hash, and this hash will act as a value for what? The previous hash of block 3. But previous hash of block 3 is storing 222, whereas block 2 hash information is ABCD. So this is not matching at all. Then whatever information is stored in all the subsequent blocks like block 3, block 4, all those information becomes irrelevant. Once there is a mismatch of the previous hash of one block with the other block, all these future or upcoming blocks that are there in the chain will be considered as unreliable. So that's why we say it is highly impossible for an admin or any person who has got access to this block to change the data. So we say the data is what stored in a secured way. Now there can be people who think that the value for the previous hash is creating a problem for not modifying the data. Let me just modify even the previous hash of all the blocks, but it is not easy. I'll tell you that in Bitcoin only, to modify a block it takes 10 minutes of time. Suppose if you have 50 lakhs of blocks, then to modify the hash of all these 50 lakhs of blocks, it will take 100 years. So which is definitely not at all practically possible. One is time factor, which is not allowing anybody to change the data in the block. The other factor or the other reason is whenever the data in a block has to be changed, that particular block has to get shared with all others. All others, since it is a decentralized one here, in all the machines a copy of the data is stored. Data is what? In a decentralized manner. So all the persons in that network have a copy of the entire blockchain. If you want to change in one copy, then you need to share that block with all others and seek their opinion. And if majority of them say that yes, the data is getting tampered, then definitely your request to change the data gets rejected. When you're taking the opinion of all others in the network, it is like what? It is a type of voting system only. So this voting system here is called as consensus rule. This is what is the reason which is making difficult for anyone to modify the data. If you want to modify or if you want to add data to the block, you have to spend more time, and also you have to take majority, that is voting more than 50% of has to go to your favor. So making 50% of the votes in your favor is difficult, and that's why we say this mechanism is a secured way of storing the information. Now let us see in which domains this blockchain is used. The first one is the cryptocurrency. Everyone would have heard about this. Okay, this is the booming domain. So in cryptocurrency, let us take for the example Bitcoins. Now if at all you want to transfer money to any other country, you are in India, so you are giving what? The complete money in form of rupees, and you want to send it to America, so it has to be in dollars. So the banks are considered as the middlemen here. These banks, they receive the money in rupees and they send the money in dollars. So that means here the middlemen are what? The banks. Now what is their role? First thing is they have to convert also this currency, and second thing is they are charging some processing fee also. So in the conversion process, definitely what? There are chances of what? Loss also. The reason is it all depends on the currency rate on that particular day wherein you are making this transfer. Suppose if you take now in Bitcoin to Bitcoin transfer, this is a direct transfer, no middlemen are required here. So this technology has completely eliminated the middleman. Bitcoin to Bitcoin direct transfer is possible, simply like the assets, how you can transfer from one place to another place. Like suppose if you want to gold getting transferred, so there's no conversion here. Similar way for the Bitcoin to Bitcoin also, there is no conversion, and also this kind of process takes a minimal processing fee as compared to the banks. The next domain where this blockchain can be used is the real estate. So whatever property you are buying or selling, so those transactions has to get stored. Normal databases, you are definitely storing that information, but if you are making use of this technology will actually keep track of what? The history of that property in the real estate, because every information is what? Linked with the previous information. Current information is what? Linked with the previous one, and this is linked with the next previous. So in this way it will help you to check the history of that property. When I showed you this diagram, you can see, because every block is storing its hash and hash of the previous block. So this will help us in keeping track of all the previous information also. Similarly in the real estate, definitely when we are buying a property, normally when you make the agreement, you will also write what? The name of the person from whom you have purchased, that is the owner of that property. If you want to know that this property was owned earlier by whom, even that information you will get. Then previous to this, who was the owner, that means you can go and track up till the first owner of this property. Then the next domain is the hospital management. So whenever a person visits a doctor, the doctor wants to know the complete history of that patient's illness. So through this technology it is possible, because once the doctor tries to access the database of the patient, the doctor will be able to get the complete information about the patient's illness right from the first health issue the patient started suffering with. With this, the doctor can check the history of that patient's illness, and the data of that patient is also secured. Otherwise, what normally we do is we carry the previous reports of our medical test whenever we visit a doctor to tell our medical issues. So we can use this blockchain to develop projects, okay, startups, businesses. Either you can start from scratch with the help of any programming language to develop the blockchain for your work. Python is one of the most popular blockchain programming language available, or you have the existing blockchains and you can use it with the help of the code. Suppose if you're interested in building and deploying a decentralized application, then definitely you can make use of this Ethereum. This Ethereum is a blockchain based computing platform. For this you need to learn the language Solidity. The Solidity is an object oriented programming language for implementing the smart contracts on various blockchain platforms, preferably the Ethereum. So this is all about the basic information about the blockchain. Hope you find this session useful. If you find it useful, please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Bye bye and take care.